Without the right control measures in place, breathing in dust that contains crystalline silica can lead to diseases like silicosis. The action you take today could save your life. In this video, we'll explain what crystalline silica is and ways you and your workmates can work safely with Hebel products. What is crystalline silica? Crystalline silica is found naturally in stone, rocks, sand, gravel and clay. When these materials are processed or disturbed during cutting, grinding, drilling, rasping, sanding or crushing, they can generate fine silica dust that's known as Respirable Crystalline Silica, or RCS. RCS particles are 100 times smaller than a grain of sand, so you can be breathing them in on site without knowing it. These small particles get caught deep in your lungs and your body is unable to get rid of them. Prolonged or significant exposure to RCS dust can lead to a disease called silicosis, which is a progressive and incurable lung disease. If you're a smoker or have an existing respiratory condition, you may be at greater risk of harm. Be prepared. It's easy to prepare. All you have to do is have suitable equipment available and understand why it's so important to protect yourself and others. PPE and controls must be put in place when working with Hebel material. Have a disposable P2 mask or half-face respirators available. Make sure you're clean-shaven and that the mask has been properly fit-checked. Remember how small the particles are, so if the mask has not got a seal, the dust can get in. Remember, you must replace masks and filter components regularly, as they become ineffective over time. Refer to the manufacturer's instructions for use. To protect yourself from other hazards when cutting Hebel, make sure you also use impact-rated eye protection, hearing protection, and gloves. Even if you have a properly fitted P2 respirator, it's not enough to protect others from exposure when cutting. Where there's a risk of exposure to RCS, speak with any other trade working in your direct area. Ask that they wear a P2 respirator or leave the immediate area while you're doing work that creates RCS dust. Wet cutting. Wet cutting, often used on commercial sites, provides the best protection and generates the lowest concentration of airborne dust. However, it may cause other on-site hazards, so it's up to you to decide after doing a site risk assessment what the right controls are. When wet cutting, only cut in an outdoor, well-ventilated area or in a cutting room. Use a circular saw with a retrofitted attachment that provides continuous water flow to the cutting surface and blade. To clean up, mix the slurry with a quarter bag of Hebel adhesive to harden before disposing as trade waste. Dry cutting. Dry cutting carries more risk, which means that you must take extra care. Only cut if you have an on-tool extraction device fitted. When in an enclosed space, only cut when you're sure there's enough ventilation. Use a 75mm plunge saw with on-tool dust extraction and an M or H-class HEPA filter industrial vacuum. When cutting, stand upwind on the enclosed side of the saw shroud. Windy conditions stir up extra dust particles, so be extra aware of who else is working in your environment. It's important to stop the cut 2 to 5 mils from the bottom edge to stop dust blowing below the saw shroud. Rasping and sanding. Rasping and sanding also requires a P2 mask. Never dry sweep because it generates dust. Use an M or H-class HEPA filter industrial vacuum, or wet the dust first before sweeping up. Place the wet dust waste in a sealed bag or container and dispose of it as trade waste. When using a vacuum or extraction device, make sure you clean your M or H-class HEPA filter regularly, and more often when there's heavy dust exposure. Refer to the manufacturer's instructions for use. Always seal the vacuum bag, double bagging it for safety, and dispose of it as trade waste. Remember, never walk past. If it doesn't feel right, then speak up. That action could save a life. If you have any questions regarding RCS, please contact your supervisor or CSR Hebel.